Welcome to Code. So in this episode of our LeetCode series, we are going to solve the question named unique email addresses. So this is the 929th question in the LeetCode problems. Now let's first read the question, trying to find the algorithm to solve this question based on the examples given, and later move on to LeetCode and solve the given algorithm. So with that, let's get to the question. So every valid email address consists of a local name and a domain name separated by the @ symbol. Besides lowercase letters, the email can contain one or more dot or plus operator. Okay. For example, alice@leetcode.com. Here Alice is the local name and leetcode.com is the domain name. So they are separated by the character @. So this is the basic example that's given. But what's the question? Let's move on and find out. If you add periods between some characters in the local name part of an email address, mail sent there will be forwarded to the same address without dots in the local name. Note that this rule does not apply to domain names. So what they have given is, for example, if the given address were alice.z@leetcode.com, then the dot operator will be removed only in the local name. So alice.z becomes alice@leetcode.com. So this becomes the ID. So in the local name, that is the characters that are coming before the @ symbol. So in the local name, if there were a dot, in that case, we would have to remove that dot and form the email address. So in this case, the email address becomes alice@leetcode.com. So the email would be sent to that address and not the original address that was given, which was alice.z. So in the local name, if there were a dot, we would remove it. And similarly, if you add a plus symbol in the local name, everything after the plus sign will be ignored. So this allows certain emails to be filtered. Note that this rule does not apply to domain names. Again, this applies to only the character that comes before the @ symbol, that is the local name. So if in case our example was m.y plus name @email.com, first, as we know, dot must be removed. So it becomes my plus name @email.com. And as we know, what is the rule that is given here? Here we are given that everything after the plus symbol in the local name must be removed. So what is after the plus symbol in the local name? The local name is m.y plus name. This is the local name. And the rest of it is domain. So in the local name, everything after the plus is ignored. So the word name after the plus is ignored. So the email becomes my@email.com. So this is our final result. So similarly, we are given n number of emails like this, which contains dot, plus and everything. We have to convert this address into a valid address first of all, removing the dots, removing the plus, and applying all the constraints that are given to us. And then in the list of emails that we found, number of unique addresses is what we have to return. So as per the name of the question, the question's objective is to find the number of unique email addresses after applying these constraints. So this is our question. Now let's move on to a given example. So as we saw, we have an input like this, but not just one input, a collection of inputs. And what do we have to do? Remove the dot. So first, the step 1 is going to be to remove the dot that we have. It becomes my plus name. And then when we remove the plus, what does happen? Every element that is after the plus symbol in the local name gets deleted. So this becomes my@email.com. But not just that, we have n number of emails like this. And we would have to do this exact process for each and every mail. Now, what is that algorithm that we are going to frame? So we are given an address. So we have a set of addresses. For each address, first we are going to split it into two parts. One is the local name and the other is our domain name. So the domain name is untouched. As we saw, the constraints were only in our local name. The dot operator, the plus operator, everything is just in our local name. So we have to split it into two parts. The one domain name which is untouched and the local name which we have to process. That is, if there were a dot, we have to remove it. If there were a plus, everything after the plus is removed. Similarly, we are going to process that local name. And then we have a resultant local name, right, after all the processing. that local name and domain name are concatenated together to form a unique email address. So similarly, we are gonna do this exact process for all the strings or all the emails that are given to us. And then finally, we have to tell how many unique addresses do we have. So how do we do that? There comes our hash set. So we are going to use the data structure called a hash set. As hash set contains only unique values in it. So in case, for example, we have two email addresses like m.y plus name at email.com and my plus name at email.com. These both are distinct email addresses. They both are different. But after our processing, both of these will become the same email addresses, my at email.com. So when you think of the number of unique email addresses in this case is not 2, it's just 1, because both of these email addresses have become the same email address, and hence the number of unique address will become 1 instead of the original amount, that is 2. So we are going to insert these strings or email addresses into a hash set which allows only unique values. It does not allow duplicate values. So thereby ensuring that the number of elements in this hash set will always be unique elements. So at the end of all these processing, if we have, let's say, 5 number of elements in the hash set, then it means there are 5 unique addresses. So the size of the hash set, the number of elements that is stored in the hash set, will determine our answer. So I hope I've given you a gist of what the algorithm is and how we are going to solve this question. Now let's move to LeetCode. If you have any doubts with this algorithm, it will get cleared when we code this exact logic. Okay, so let's move to LeetCode. So here we are in LeetCode. We are given a function named num unique emails, and this returns the integer as an output, that is the number of unique emails as the output, and we are given a string array called emails. So we are going to use this string array which contains all the emails that we have, and we have to validate all these emails. We have to make this into valid emails and then check the number of unique emails that we have. So for that, as we saw earlier, we are going to use a hash set because hash set only allows unique elements to be added into it. So our first step would be to declare a hash set. So it's a hash set that is going to store integers because all these emails are stored as an strings. So since all these emails are just collection of characters which are the string, we are going to use a hash set that is going to store a string. Now let's name this the set itself and let's create a new hash set here. So a new hash set is being created. So what is our first step? The first step, as we saw, is to split the given email into 2, right? So we have to do this process for every email that is given in this array. So let's first start with the for loop and find every email or traverse through every email here. And let's use a for each loop for this. String email colon emails. So this is gonna traverse this given array, which is a string array, for each and every element. In the first iteration, we'll get the email that is stored in the 0th index. That will get stored in the variable email. In the second iteration, the second mail will get stored, third mail, fourth mail, and similarly until the last mail. So this is the working of a for each loop. Now what do? We split the email into local name and domain name. So how do we do that? In order to split it, we can use the substring function. So what is the substring? Any collection of characters or consecutive collection of characters part of a main string is called a substring. For example, if num unique emails were a string, then num is a substring, unique is a substring, emails is a substring, and similarly num unique together is a substring. Any collection of consecutive characters is termed as a substring. So what do? Well, let's take an example of the email that we had. So we know a general email is of the format my at or something local name at domain name, right? So we have to split this into 2 by using the separation as at symbol, and we know at is used for separating the local name and the domain name. So if we form 2 substrings, one before the at symbol, so all the characters from 0 until the symbol at, and all the characters from the at symbol until the last element. If we have two substrings like this, those would be our domain name and a local name. So that is what we are going to exactly do. We are going to find the index of at, and all the collection of characters until that symbol would be our domain name. All the collection of characters after the at symbol would be our local name. Local and domain name respectively. I hope you understand that. So let's first declare the domain name and local name here. Before that, we need to find the index of at symbol. So at position is equal to email dot index of is the function that we are going to use in order to find the index of the at character. So in the email string, what is the index of at character? So that is going to return an integer, and that will get stored in the at position here. Now we are going to use the substring function in order to split this into two. So string local name is equal to email dot substring of from the starting index 0 until our at position. So this is going to split the local name in the first half. So the first half becomes our local name, and the second half must become our domain name. So domain name is equal to email dot substring of at position plus 1, and it's until the end of the string, right? So we can just leave it empty and it will find it on its own. So these are the two substrings that we have separated from the email, and these substrings is gonna be the part of our final mail. And as we know, domain name does not have any changes here, so let's not process it, let's not touch it. We'll just take the local name, change for the dot and the plus operator. So what is the first constraint for the dot operator? Whenever we have a dot, we must just remove it, or we must just ignore it, right? So what are we gonna do? We are gonna search for all the dots in our local name alone and remove it. So how do we delete things from a string? We can use the remove function, but we have to repeat this process, right? So we have a function called replace all. So this replace all function takes two arguments. One is what element to replace and what element to replace it with. So these are the two arguments. Let us take an example and understand this. So this was our initial email that we got. So we are going to apply the replace all function to this email or to this string. So we are going to say replace all the dot with an empty string. So what is an empty string? It's just the opening quotes and the closing quotes. So since it's an empty string, it is just going to join things, right? So when m and this dot is replaced with an empty string, so there is nothing in between, it gets joined as my. So the dot is essentially removed. So if we replace all the dots with an empty string, we are essentially deleting all the dots in our local name. So that is what we are gonna code now. So this is our first thing. So the local name is already declared, so we will not specify data type again. So local name is equal to local name dot replace all of. What are we replacing? We are replacing the dot, and what are we replacing it with? So the dot is being replaced with an empty string. So the empty string is just an opening and closing quotations. Okay, but if we use this, we'll definitely get an error. So why is that? The dot operator is an operator in Java. It's not just a symbol here. So we have to use escape sequences like this in order to make Java understand that this is not an operator, rather this is just the symbol dot. It does not convey any meaning to it. So we are explicitly giving Java instructions stating that use this as a symbol and not as a dot operator. As you can see here dot is used as an operator, right? So in order to make Java understand that, we are using this escape sequence. So this is gonna solve our dot problem. Next, what do we have? We have to check for our plus constraint. So what constraint was placed on us in the plus? Whenever we have a string that contains a plus in the local name, everything after the plus is ignored. So in the given example here, m.y plus name, dot would obviously be removed, so it becomes my plus name. So everything after the plus is removed, meaning my@email.com becomes our answer. So what do? Again we form a substring. So every element until the plus operator index is the local name. So what do we use? So local name is equal to local name dot substring of 0, the position of plus operator. So the position of plus operator, similarly we can declare an integer for that. Similar to at position, we can have a value called plus position that is gonna find local name dot index of plus. So this is gonna return as the index of the plus operator, and let's use that here, plus position. But is it done? No. We have to first check whether the plus operator is there in the local name. This index of would be able to find the index only if the plus operator were present in it, right? What if the plus operator itself is not present? m.y@email.com can also be a valid input. So the first thing that we have to do is, before doing all these manipulations, we have to first check whether the local name contains the plus operator. Only if it contains the plus operator, we'll find the index of it and replace it. Delete all the elements that comes after it. So this is gonna be the code for it. Okay. So this is gonna get our other problems resolved. Now what do? We have a local name processed, we have a domain name. We concatenate these two in order to form a new string, and that is our new email address. So email is equal to our local name plus our domain name. So this is gonna be our string. Now we have to just add this into our hash set in order to remove duplicates. So set.add of email. So this is gonna add all the unique entries of these emails into a hash set. Now at last, what do we have to return? We have to return the number of unique emails. So the number of elements in this hash set is always unique, and hence the number of elements in this hash set will be our answer. So return set.size of. So the number of elements that is present in this hash set is returned as the answer. Now let's run this code and verify our output. And okay, local name dot can't be converted into character sequence. I think we have to use double quotes instead of single quotes here. Yeah, so this is passed all the basic test cases. Let's submit this code and verify the code for all the other test cases that we have. And it has produced the wrong answer. The output given by our code is 1, but the expected output is 2. What is the error that we made? Shall we print this and verify it? Okay. So at each and every iteration, let's print the answers. System.out.println of email. So let's run this code. It obviously works for sample test case. We have to just check it for the other test cases. We'll check it for the test cases where it fails. So as you can see here, these two are exactly the same, but that is being printed, but that will not get added up, right? Test email leetcode.com. See, the output is just 1, but the expected output is 2. Why is that? Okay, this is leetcode.com, this is code.com. Local name is equal to local name plus domain name. Okay, we have missed the at symbol here. In both of these outputs, we don't have the at symbol because we added a character here. It starts from that position and ends at the end. So that is the incorrect answer, I guess. Yeah, so it got submitted. So the error that we made was at symbol is also included in the email, but since we included a +1 here, the @ symbol got removed. So it became email address without an @ symbol at the end. So that became the problem. So this is how we resolved it. So a +1 must not come here because the @ symbol is also included in the domain name, because at the end we need the domain name containing the @ symbol. So the local name at the domain name.com, right? So that is where the problem was. So if you have any doubts, just change this and print these values and check. That will get our problem resolved. So I have just created a new string here. Probably it might work for the old answer too. So email and email. So this would probably work. That ain't a problem. So the only problem was we used a +1 here. Yeah, so this got accepted as well. So you can use the same name here. That ain't a problem. So the only problem was we are using a +1 there. So I hope you understood this question really well. It's a very simple question based on hashset, but only if you understand that this question can be solved using a hashset data structure, this becomes an easy question. Because using an array in order to find the number of unique elements, that's a really long process and that takes order of n squared. So instead of that, while using a hashset, we'll get an easier answer. So this is the very simple question that we saw, number of unique email addresses. So with that, this episode comes to an end. So let us see you in the next episode of our LeetCode series. Until then,